Perfect.
I'll just talk to you.
Perfect. Alrighty. So
I'm not used to being in the front of the camera.
Oh, you're used to behind it?
But now, as a filmmaker, you're usually behind the camera.
Gotcha.
But in sales, in finance, I needed to be an actor.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Glad you were building a little bit of chemistry here at the very beginning.
Yeah, I did love my theater class at Pasadena City College. Took several theater classes, 2 I think, and then some TV classes. But yeah, the theater, that was where we did some acting exercises and stuff.
Do you have fond memories of PCC as your time there?
Yes, definitely. Like 2 years there. You went to PCC also,
Yeah, I did
right?
too. Yeah, I did for about 2 years as well.
Lancers.
Yeah,
This was before the new art building was created. So we did all our TVR photo on the older side of campus.
I know right now they're still currently in like a lot of remodeling because they got like a new bunch more grants and stuff, but it's good.
It was a time when there was a lot of upheaval in campus. There were protests going on in the quad.
Oh god, so very socially active and very like socially aware campus or like students that were.
I don't know. I know something happened that triggered that whole thing, and the president. I don't think it's the same president now. But yeah, and then got involved with the Filipino cultural night as well there.
Awesome. Filipino cultural night. That's pretty good. So have you like always been like tied to like cultural like thing or like or more filmmaking would be your passion, then filmmaking kind of led you toward?
I guess it was kind of because there was a club there, and Filipino clubs, they do Filipino cultural nights. I'm really more as a filmmaker.
Gotcha.
That's kind of like been my focus. In the Philippines, in college, we have a national hero in the Philippines whose name was Jose Rizal.
Okay.
And what he did was he wrote 2 novels. And this was during the Spanish occupation.
Okay.
And these 2 novels basically exposed the Spanish friars' abuses in the novel. And then it kind of like galvanized a lot of the people, the leaders there to kind of like revolt or seek reforms. And so when I went to college, I decided that I kind of wanted to be like him. Not to write novels, but to make films.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of been my passion mission, is using films to make a difference, make an impact, to change the world.
Awesome. It's a great goal to have for sure.
So that's kind of like the motivation, and then if you can achieve other things along the way, why not, right? So
cool. You can tell us a little bit about yourself. You started your education career at PCC, and then now we're kind of moving on to life insurance. Is that what?
Correct.
Awesome.
Finance, really,
Finance,
the financial sector, financial services.
Gotcha.
So, as a filmmaker, as an artist, I always see people putting up all these big projects, right? It's like, how do they do that? You want to make your film, your vision, your story come to life, but film is a very expensive medium. It's not like a painting where it's just you, the canvas, and some brushes and paint, acrylic, oil, whatever you use. With film, it's very expensive, or it can be, right? And so, for the longest time, I've always been trying to figure out how that works, how financing works. That was all foreign to me. And it was actually here in the Mayborn area, the Mayborn Hotel, that I've been working a lot since the beginning of this year, when I had to transition from my IT manager positions in the past, which I was doing for a long time. I was helping this client of mine and then getting to know him better, what he did. So he's kind of like was a producer raising funds for movies, but then pivoting to hedge fund, a model for entertainment. And so but being in this neighborhood, it's like, actually finance, it's not that difficult. You know, these are just ordinary people, and they just knew how the rules work, you know, in the system, and leveraging those rules to be successful or to achieve what they want to do, whether it's putting a film together, creating a business. And so I was like, oh, okay, so that's what it's all about, right? There are rules, and then I started studying for my securities exam and learn about stocks, bonds, and being able to leverage that. I have a long way to go, but I'm starting with my insurance license. So now I can sell life insurance, disability, long-term care. So basically insurance, protection for people, for families. And it's not easy having to pivot and rebuild.
I was going to ask you that, like the pivot, the difference between like your old field of like many years in the IT to now.
Very, very
finance.
difficult, like extremely difficult. I'm building my long-term pipeline, right? I'm building my connections, but those won't generate income right away. Because you got to build a relationship, you got to build a rapport, you got to figure out what they need. And it's a business, it's an industry that you build long-term relationships with people because their
never going to be a
finances
short
change.
term.
No, it's not like here buy an insurance policy and that's it. You don't talk to them anymore, you know, or buy a house.
It's like always consistent checking in, maintaining that relationship.
Correct.
To
People's lives change.
their needs will change.
Their needs would change, yes. And it's like helping people, you know. It's like you're not selling, you're helping them figure out what they need, and they make a choice based off of where they're at this moment, and then just providing that assistance. And the other cool thing that I realized while I was going deep into this was that my passion for helping the community, my passion for films, for music, arts, you know, my work in the library, in the community that I do, it's actually now becomes a part of what I'll be doing for a living, which is networking, right? In a way.
Networking.
So the strength that I've been doing is natural for me, does not automatically translate to a monetary reward, but for you to be successful here, you need to meet with as many people as possible, because out of those pool of people, some of them might need a product that you offer, right, at that point. And so being able to expand your network and influence is what you need to do. And to do that, you gotta bring value. And I feel like for you to ask someone for something, you gotta give something first. And I feel like that's what I want to do. I want to give as much value to people.
Giving value to people.
Give them value, right? Not only information, not only, you know, helping them figure out what they need or what they want, to provide that guidance, you know, because finance is very difficult. And I had to deal with finance for a long time in my old career, and it's very difficult because, you know, these are things that people don't teach you.
Right.
You know, you don't know, and then you just get stuck, and then you end up getting into a hole. And having someone to kind of like just throw ideas around or provide guidance, feedback, or just having someone to listen to when you deal with finance, with your career, personal business, makes a big difference. Right now I'm a financial professional because I don't have my investment license yet. I'm taking my SIE, that's the first exam that I need to take for my for me to become a licensed financial advisor, financial planner. Right now, I'm just a financial professional.
Gotcha.
And so all these things can be overwhelming, and a lot of people think that they don't need one, or it's just it doesn't like become a need for them until it's too late.
So it's too late. You're saying a lot of people don't consider it until something's already happened, or
correct.
They're
already in a hole, or they've already missed the timeline to prepare, to plan, and it's like, what can you do at this point, right? You're already close to retirement, or you're already retired, and you haven't planned for your retirement.
Yeah, it's something a big worry. But outside of like work and everything, what do you do? Like, what do you like to enjoy? So a big movie person, big sports person, like to cook.
I was a chess player in high
okay,
school.
chess.
I was chess varsity in the
Okay.
Philippines, so that paid for
Nice.
my high school.
That's pretty cool.
and
Chess
I-
is you have to be pretty smart to, I think, learn chess for sure.
Well, you got to use your brain. It's a good exercise of your brain. So you see, I also studied performance. How to? There's a book. There's different books that I've read, but it all had to deal with performance. When I was making my first feature film called Running for Freedom, it's about ultramarathon runners. Them running 135 miles in 2 days in the desert. The bottom, the lowest peak, up to the highest peak, or not the highest peak, but like significant inclines.
Yeah, the extremities of it.
Yeah, it's like mountains. If you watch the film Running for Freedom, it's in Amazon and other places. You get to see what these runners have to go through.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I've been interested in performance, and one of the things I've learned, there's this wonderful book. It's kind of, I'm a journalist, so it's not an academic book. It's called The Talent Code. That's it. That was the first book. It was really it sparked my imagination.
Talent code.
The Talent Code. The idea there is for you to become great. So greatness is built, not born. That's the whole pitch. The whole idea
That's a quote.
is, the idea is our brains have wiring, circuitry, and there's they call it the white matter, or I forgot the term, but there's a sheet. There's an insulation for the nerves of the brain, that the more you have of that, the faster the signal travels.
Oh, so it's like a physical,
It's a physical component of our brain, of our nervous system, the white matter. I forgot the term, but there is that term where it builds up. The more you use, the more you fire that circuitry of your brain, the more it builds up that
muscle repetition kind
insulation.
of, yeah.
Correct. That's in muscles too. So it's kind of like muscles when you're building muscles, right? The idea is you're pushing yourself enough, but not too much that you'll get injured. Just enough at the edge to get better. And then, so it builds up that white matter, and the more you build it up, the faster the signal travels. And so all these great NBA stars, or chess grandmasters, they've kind of really built up that pattern, and so it's very natural for them. And so, so there's a process to it. And so it's the same thing with finance. Right? It's you got to build that up, and you got to figure it out.
Gotcha.
And so chess, filmmaking. I'm doing my second feature film now.
Awesome. Can you give any insights about that so far?
Yeah, sure. It's a background is last year during the Veterans Day event that we did, that the Friends of the Echo Park Library helped put together. It was to commemorate the World War II Filipino American veterans.
Oh, awesome. That's wonderful.
And one of the issues there was after they served and fought, America passed the Rescission Act. And what that was the hundreds of thousands of Filipinos that signed up for the U.S. Army because they needed an army in the Philippines, because we were still under America at that time. We were a Commonwealth. They needed an army to help fight against the Japanese invasion
Okay.
during World War II. So they signed up, right, expecting to be treated as
Americans.
as veterans of the army with all its benefits. What happened was they passed the Rescission Act, and basically majority of those that fall under the USAFE, United States Army of the Far East or something like that, were stripped of their rights. Right? All the pension, healthcare, everything. Basically they said, it's too expensive, sorry, bye. Unless you got injured and you had a doctor certified, but people that they would accept the certification from. It's like my wife's grandfather, he got injured, he probably got proper documentation, and so he got the pension. But majority of those veterans that fought under MacArthur, that were officially, enlisted, they get kicked out. And so fast forward in the 1990s, I'm starting to learn more and more of these stories. They started organizing. They found their way to the U.S. One way or another. They were able to come to the U.S. and they said, let's come together and try to fight for what was lost to us.
Yeah, for sure.
That was our benefit. We served, and we should get benefits. So all throughout the 1990s to early 2000, they fought for the equity bill. They didn't get what they wanted. They got a very small amount to whoever was here and a congressional gold medal recognition. That's it. And so for me, I was trying to figure out how to tell that story, right? Because as a storyteller, you want it to be engaging. Like, you got to figure out how to structure it. So it took me a year to figure it out. So since last year until this year, my friend who gave me the initial batch of tapes that he took, documenting all of these World War II veterans fighting for their rights to lobby for the equity bill. He gave me another batch of tapes, especially like when these veterans kind of like chained themselves to a tree.
Oh, wow.
So I haven't digitized it, I haven't seen the footage yet, but from last year's footage, I saw like really powerful veterans talking about their situation.
Okay.
Right. That's why that kind of like triggered it for me. I'm like, no, this story has to be told, but I just didn't know how to structure it until when we went to the library event in downtown LA, the Central Library. I was talking about I got this new batch of tapes from Joshua, and then one of our board members, Yoli. She said, "Oh, yeah, I was there. My father was one of the organizers, and I helped them move, lobby the different, congressmen, congresspeople, and senators door to door." And I was like, that was a moment where I'm like, okay, I know how to tell this story now, because I got archival footage. And if I can get more people that have first-hand knowledge of what happened, I can put together a film.
Yes, for sure.
So that'll be my second feature film. No budget production. I'll do it pro bono. I'm not gonna raise any funds for that, because my goal right now is to meet with as many people as possible, provide a service. So me doing this, hopefully I can get in contact with potential clients and prospects in exchange for my, something that I can do. I know I have value and I have the skills, and I can put a film together, because my first film, Running for Freedom, I did it on my own, no budget at all. So I know I can make this second film. And
Absolutely.
so those are kind of like, occupying my time.
Yeah,
Aside from serving as the president of the Friends of Echo Park Library, and then starting a new nonprofit now, supporting artists, musicians.
Okay.
Because as a filmmaker, no one supported me. Right now, I can think of groups that are in existence, but I can't go to them and say, hey, can you help me? I met some when I was in Chicago. I think it was a Chet Records. I forgot the name, but it was the original recording studio, the first, the history of rock and roll.
Oh, wow.
I was also developing a rock and roll documentary before. It's kind of like put on hold, but that nonprofit, what they did, it's kind of like a museum now. I think that was where they recorded Johnny B. Good, first original Johnny B. Good, blues, rock and roll. And what they're doing now, on top of being like a museum telling the story of rock and roll, was they kind of serve as they help artists figure out the business of music, right? Because they teach us about the craft of the different arts, but hardly talk about the business side, the career side. How do you make it?
Because you'll be talented, but if you don't have the necessary tools and knowledge about the business,
The
then you
business
can.
side, then it's a hard battle. And so recently I was helping a friend of mine figure out how they can secure a venue.
Okay.
He's a musician, he wants to play, not necessarily for a lot of profit, but he's very passionate. he made the musical score for a lot of Philippine classic cinema, like classic Filipino films. You know, Himala, all those like things that you would think if you're studying Philippine cinema.
He's been a part of it.
He was a composer for the soundtrack of those. The like classic Filipino films. You know, he was like, you know, this is his career, it was passion, and now he still wants to do music. And then they brought me on board, you know, able to provide some guidance, knowledge of my knowledge about nonprofits, about business, and for me to help them out, we needed a nonprofit because some of these venues that they're trying to secure needed a nonprofit to actually put these shows on.
Oh, gotcha.
And not just sponsors. So we decided, yeah, let's start a nonprofit. And for me, it's like I want to. What I couldn't get, I want to be able to provide that to others. Right? Like if you're serious about your craft, you're serious about your exploring your potential as an artist, as a musician, I want to be able to help those people figure out not only the craft, because I'm sure they already figured that out. They have a lot of people that can ask for help, but on the business side, marketing, how do you know, their career. And resources. So that's a new nonprofit we're going to be starting.
Awesome.
Hopefully, it won't take too long to get the to get approval from the IRS for the nonprofit designation. But that's one of the passion that I know I can do, and at the same time, meet potential clients to be of service. Because really, like in this career, it's not so much. I don't like selling.
Right. You don't think of it as selling.
I just don't like selling at all. You know, I meet, you know, all these salespeople come to me, they pitch right away. Like, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
I don't even know. You don't even know how your product could fit my needs or what my needs are.
Gotcha. So how would you go about necessarily introducing the idea of like life insurance to somebody brand new that wouldn't necessarily have any idea of
So
that?
a lot of people have misconceptions about life insurance.
Okay, gotcha. What would be
Rightly
like?
so, because there's a lot of salespeople out there that don't have the best interest of their clients or, you know, potential clients at heart. It's just me. I'm not a salesperson. I mean, I am now, but you know, the typical car salesman people think about, you know, I don't like that.
Gotcha.
Right? I don't want to sell something I don't believe in.
Okay.
Right? Because you can't be authentic if it's something just to make a sale, make it transactional. And this, especially in this business, finance, financial services, insurance, protection really is what we call it. You gotta have that genuine want, that passion to help people. And so, yeah, that's a big barrier, right? Because when you come in, people have misunderstanding, and that's why you can't like just straight out say, hey, would you like life insurance?
Yeah, I don't think that'll really work.
Majority of people will probably like say no or run away from you.
Yeah.
But it's very important because if something were to happen to you or to your loved one, imagine the devastation that would have on your family, right? It's all of a sudden you won't come home. What's gonna happen tomorrow? Right? So if you had some protection, then you won't be, it will still be a challenge emotionally, you know, having to deal with someone's loss, but at least you don't have to think about, oh, where are we gonna live tomorrow? Where are we gonna find rent? How are we gonna pay for the mortgage? How are we gonna pay for the kids' school? How are we gonna pay for our car loan, you know? So people don't want to think about that, but it's a reality. It doesn't happen to everyone. And the whole idea of insurance is you're spreading out the risk. Just like with health insurance, you insure a whole lot of people, someone like you who's young, healthy, will probably not rack up a lot of cost for the insurance company, right? Versus someone who's older who would need a lot of prescriptions, need a lot of doctor visits, need a lot of hospital visits. Those are gonna rack up a lot of cost. But you're pulling them all together and you're spreading the cost. And that's the whole idea of insurance and insurability. And so it's the same thing with life insurance, life protection or protection, because there's other aspects to it, but we want to start with a good foundation because it gives you peace of mind knowing that whatever happens, if I walk the street here, you know, I get hit by a car, I won't get home, or I get disabled, that my loved ones, people that I care about, there's something that's going to assist them in a very challenging time. And so that's the essence of what we do, and making people understand that, and all the complexities of underwriting, of determining if someone is insurable or not insurable, how much to insure for, how long to be factored in, and all that is complicated for average people if you're not trained. And so I've gone through a lot of training. I'm now certified California life insurance agent, and so that's what I'm here for, to help people figure out what their needs are, making sure they're not getting too much protection and not getting too little protection, just enough protection to satisfy their needs, their wants, desires. For example, like I have 4-year-old twins, they'll be 5 next month. How much would they need to help them transition, or to make sure that they can go through college, they can grow up, they can make a living for themselves? So if they're 5 next month, within 20 years, it should be enough where they'll be able to have their own careers, graduate, have their jobs, right? So right now, if you look at it, okay, so this is one particular need. 20 years term insurance. And what that means is that policy will be enforced only up to 20 years. Enough for my babies to grow up, to be able to graduate, get jobs. And it cannot be renewed anymore. You can be insured all the way up to year 100. And the idea there is, the older you are, the more expensive it is to insure you, because the higher likelihood of you passing away is much higher. So your risk is much higher, right? And the idea of insurability and spreading the risk comes into play here. So those plans are more expensive than a 20-year contract, because after 20 years, that's it, right? The risk is low because you stop it at a certain age. As long as I keep paying the premium, we will have that protection, that coverage, $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, whatever that is. Of course, there's cost to that, and their whole underwriting process that I will help my clients go through. But yeah, that's the whole idea of protection, to make sure you have peace of mind. And then once I know that my family is protected, whatever happens to me, then I can think of, how can I maximize my assets, the money that I bring in? How do I make sure that I'm letting money work for itself? And so this is the idea now of accumulation, right? During your lifetime, your working years, you want to make sure that the money that's left over from paying your bills, you want to set it aside, and not only set it aside and do nothing, you want to put it to work.
Right.
And there's 2 paths there. One is the guaranteed path, and this is the this is the conservative strategy, where it's guaranteed. Your money will be, accumulating interest. You'll make money off of your money at a certain percent, right? And it's guaranteed. And so the rates of return won't be as much, but then you have peace of mind that it's gonna, every year your money is gonna grow. It's just having your asset, in a certain product, an account. And that's called deferring your taxes. And the idea is, if you're making a lot of money today, your tax bracket is this much, 30%, whatever it is, right? So 30% of 100,000 is a lot.
Yes.
Right?
Quite a bit.
Well, I mean, they're not going to tax you with the principal, the money you put in. They're going to tax you in the interest. So 4,000, if your interest was 4,000,
They'll tax you on that.
so 30% of 4,000 is still a lot.
Good amount, yeah.
And so the idea of deferring your taxes is you take it out at a point in time where your tax bracket is low. So when your tax bracket is at 10%, 11%, 12%, you'll be able to retain more of your money. And not only that, in a span of 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, the compounding effect. So the money that you would have paid to the government in taxes sitting on a checking account, you would use that to double your money. Right? So you're not taking that money out to pay for taxes. You're not taking it out to pay for personal stuff. You're just letting it sit and compound. But year after year, it's going to compound. So the money that compounds will use to compound again, and you're not paying taxes until later on in your life, right? Like letting your money work for you. And the other one is also tax-free money. Right? So one of the things that I didn't know, or I've been trying to figure out, is with life insurance, if something does happen and your beneficiaries will put in a claim, it's tax-free.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, tax-free. Death benefit is tax-free. So there's two main life insurance products. One is term, the one that I described earlier, where it only goes up to 20 years. And the other one is called permanent, or whole life insurance. With whole life insurance, there's a cash value component where you can use it as a retirement, a separate stream of income. And so there's different strategies, and it's complicated. And what I do is we have a tool called Guide Me, and it helps people figure out where they're at, where they want to be by the time they retire. And it'll recommend products and how to achieve those. So step by step. And the idea here is we have to plan. We have to figure out what our goals are, prioritize our goals, and come up with a strategy to achieve those goals. And that's what I'm here to do. Basically, it's a job about helping people.
But another question that I wanted to ask is, personally, how do you deal with more of those emotional conversations about loss, about death, for someone that might not be ready for it? Because everyone needs to have these conversations. Is there anything that you personally do, or you just kind of?
Well, that's what they say, protection. Protection. So what we're doing, we're kind of like building a house. How we want to visualize what we do. So first part is protection, right? The foundation of your financial house. So framing it as protection for your loved ones, using the word protection frames it in a certain way. But then it's I think part of life when you grow older, certain things become more relevant, things you think about, because we're not immortals. I learned this from my screenwriting class at PCC. I forget my professor's name, but it was there that my lifelong quest to answer a question that I've been asking myself, even back in the Philippines, was kind of answered. Not fully answered, because you'll never know the truth, the entire truth, but at least have some sort of framework to understand the mysteries of the universe. So this book, Hero with 1,000 Faces, basically looks at all the different religions in the world, different myths, mythologies, religions, Christian, Buddhism, Islam. And he pointed out that there are universal patterns in these different religions. This is my question was, and is America better than the Philippines? Is a Western democracy of individualism better than the Eastern philosophy of the collective? In the Philippines, you do as you're told. You don't question. You respect your elders. You don't say what's on your mind, right? You do as you're told. This is your role. This is your role as a child. This is your role as a mother, as a father. We all have a role. The universe is set. The stars, the cosmos, it's kind of fixed. So on Earth, we also have our roles. There's kings, there's pharaohs, there's servants, there's priests, there's mothers, there's fathers. And so that's the Eastern world. That's where I grew up. But then I was also educated, influenced by the Western education because the Philippines was occupied by the United States and introduced public educational system. And so I was like, what is better, you know? My heritage of not disturbing the status quo, of doing as you're told, or the American way of following your own path, pulling yourself by your own bootstraps, being independent, you know, saying what's on your mind. So, which is right? Right? Which one should you follow? The one that leads to a different sort of civilization, or a civilization that has created like the Mayborn, you know, skyscrapers, the money, finance, and all the marvels of Western democracy. Western democracy, Western science, where man is above nature, versus the Eastern philosophy of nature and man, spirit and matter is kind of like one and the same. You know, there's no difference between the spirit world and the material world, while in the Western world it's clearly defined. And think of a light bulb.
Okay.
Use this as example, right? When you look at the light bulb, do you look at it as a light bulb, or do you look at the light? Do you look at it as energy, or as a physical thing? And you know, we need to grow as individuals, but we also need family. We also need community. We need our tribe, but we need our individuality also. So we need a balance. And the problem is, it's like we're kind of like separated, and the world has kind of like merged together, and a lot of people are confused. They don't understand. One, they're told to do what they're told, and then the other one to do, you know, follow your own path, question authority. Well, the other one is like obey authority. So it's all about the same, really, and thinking about life, you know, because we are mortals, and thinking about it, framing it as a light bulb versus a light, right? Do you see it like just ending, or as a transformation? So that's kind of how I see it, and you know, on my own self. And a lot of people probably don't think in those terms or go deeply into that. Yeah, but it is still gonna be a challenge. You know, loss, death is still a very difficult part of life. But we have to prepare. We have to face it. You know, the only difference is whether you face it with something that will help you, or you face it where your whole life crumbles and you're not able to live the life that you want and plan. The important thing here is to prepare, to plan, because a lot of people are probably not planning. So having your trusted advisor to help you do that, and just get feedback, get recommendations, is going to be a big help. And one of the other things that I do is I work with your accountants, with your lawyers, with your mortgage brokers, your car insurance, health insurance people, to make sure that they're there for your benefit and not just for their benefit, right? You know, it's like, how do you structure it in a way that it helps you with what you want, right? Because everyone's goals are different, and what we do is to make sure that you set your own goals, and we help you craft a customized, personal, unique strategy for you. Think of it as a coach.
Yes, a coach.
That's what we do.
Yes.
That's what I do. You know, I'll be your coach.
So somebody who is like not fully bought in, what would you think you would say to them to like kind of get them to be bought in on like the
have protection.
Yes, to have protection.
What I can do is offer the options that they have. Do they need or want $100,000 to help pay for what you need to pay for, funeral expenses, whatever? Because those are expensive. So that $100,000 is gone really quick.
Gotcha.
Especially if you have to transport a body like back to the Philippines, you know, that $100,000 not even go much. It's like 1 year's worth of work, right? For someone, or two, or $500,000 or $1 million, right? How much is enough, or what do they want? So I'm not here to decide for the clients. Because it is a need, and What I'm here for is to assist them with a plan, right? So maybe they cannot afford a whole life protection for their entire life. And maybe they don't need it, right? So like for me, for my kids, maybe a 20-year term policy, $500,000 or $1 million coverage would be enough. That would probably be much cheaper than the same value, the same coverage amount for a whole life, where you have a whole life protection. That's going to be very, very expensive.
Gotcha.
So the idea is maybe just have a minimum set of funds or a policy, a minimum policy for your entire life that'll generate value, it'll generate, it'll have dividends, and at some point in the future, you could use that, borrow against that to pay for your kids' college, or to down payment for a house, or just another set of income stream during retirement. And then the bulk of the protection needs will be a term where it'll be cheaper to get a higher coverage.
Gotcha.
So everyone's situation is going to be different, and it's really I'm not selling. I'm just presenting what their options are.
And then you did mention like planning was probably something that anybody could just start doing, that is going to like set them up for success later on financially.
Correct. So there's like the time horizon, right? So if you have a lot of time to accumulate wealth, assets, that's to your advantage. And so if you don't use that well, if you don't plan, it might be too late at some point. Or how much does it cost to buy a house or to rent? It's very expensive. And so having a plan is the first step, because this is your situation. You know what your situation is. You figure out what you want, right? And sometimes you might not know what you want, but at least just to have some idea, just a basic survival, or just to live comfortably. Figuring out, okay, how much do you need to set aside? What rate of return? And what strategy? Do you risk it all to put in the market? So you gotta have a strategy, right? So how much can you put in risky investments that even if the value of it drops 50%, 60%, 80, 90%. So you want to have a plan where, okay, you set aside, it's like tax, it's a diversified strategy. So you don't want to put everything, even if you're a gambler, you probably won't put all your assets in high risk investments. So whole life is kind of like one strategy. I wouldn't say that's the only thing that people need to do. But this is like one strategy that's kind of like you have guaranteed rates of return. You don't lose the principal, right? And then you have a potential for the dividend. And so it's very customized, right? So adjusting it every year. Your financial situation will be changing.
Yeah.
Your goals will be changing.
Always changing.
And having a plan, because you got to plan, otherwise you won't be able to deal with things as things come. Not only until retirement, right? But things that show up. College for kids, down payment on a house, starting a business.
Yeah, I was actually going to move on into my next question. So circumstances, bringing up, but how would protection go into like everyday life, as you mentioned, like saving for a house or like paying for college and stuff?
Yeah,
like that?
so with term insurance, it doesn't have cash value. It doesn't accumulate. That's why it's cheap. It's cheaper to get $500,000 coverage, tax-free, but it's still, it's only protection, right? So if something happened, I hand that check over to your beneficiaries, and they can use whatever they want with that money.
Oh, okay.
The other one is whole life or permanent insurance, and there are tax benefits to that, and there is a cash accumulation component of that also. So a portion of the premiums that you pay, so it'll be more expensive because you're protected until age 100. Most people don't live up to age 100 probably, right? So as you age, they basically spread the risk, because most probably if you keep that policy, keep paying for it, you won't be here anymore for your loved ones. And then the idea for the whole life is at age 100, if your protection was, let's say, $100,000, your cash value will accumulate up to $100,000. So we call it maturity. It'll mature. It'll endow. So whether you pass away or not, at age 100, you'll have $100,000 that you can take out. So by the time you're age 65 or 67, when you retire, you can decide, oh, my cash value has accumulated enough that maybe at this point you'll have 60,000, 80,000, whatever the cash value is at that point. You can decide, you can borrow from it, pay it back later or not. You know? Cheaper than having to go to the bank and then, you know, and then plus you still have protection. So, so we talk about protection, right? The foundation of your financial house, and then a little bit about accumulation, right? Make sure that you're not putting everything in very high risk that you can lose it all. And then the last portion will be preservation, the roof of the house.
Okay.
So by the time you retire or getting close to retirement, how do you make sure that you protect those assets and that you don't outlive your income?
Gotcha.
So one of the products that I can offer as of this point is a fixed guaranteed annuities, and this is more for people that are getting close to retirement.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So it's called annuities, fixed annuities. But right now, a fixed annuity, if you're thinking about retirement, if you know someone that's getting ready for retirement, you know, they need to start thinking about, okay, how do you make sure that your wealth doesn't go away, and that you have different streams of income, maybe from Social Security, maybe from your pension, some from your whole life, some from your annuities. And the idea of annuities is you take a lump sum amount of money, a minimum is like $5,000, and then there's a guaranteed number of years where it accumulates a set guaranteed percent. But once you lock it in for 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, it'll accumulate with that amount. And then there's another version of the annuities called, like, I think lifetime income or income annuity, where you put in your, like, let's say $100,000, right? You've accumulated enough, you retire with that amount, you put it in an income annuities, but once you put it in, you can't take it out. Because what it's designed to do is to make sure you have income for life.
Oh, God.
So your $100,000 that you put in, you can set it where it, as long as you live, or for X number of years. So there's different ways to structure it, and depends on what your needs are. All right, so that's kind of more of the preservation phase. So to make sure that you enjoy your retirement and you're not just dependent on one stream of income, because you know you gotta diversify, because if one thing fails, at least you have other sources of income that's coming in.
I do have a couple more questions though. So what's one important message that you want people to take away from learning a little bit more about you today?
Learn to leverage money and finance. Because the very rich people that can afford to stay in $1,000 a night hotels, the exclusivity of Beverly Hills, they all leverage money and finance to be successful.
Gotcha.
And that would be my message. A message that I wish someone told me early on in my life, in my career. But being able to leverage that, know the rules of the game, you know how to figure out how to make money work for you. Different strategies, right? Like what we talk about, like why would you, the interest that you get from your assets that you put aside in a checking account, why would you pay the taxes now instead of using it to generate additional money, right?
Yeah.
Through interest.
And that's all through like knowledge, or people like...
People don't really know that. You know, I didn't know that. Stocks and bonds, right? If you're more entrepreneurial, if you want to start your own business, how does that work? You know, how do you raise equity? What is equity? How does that whole work? How does the stock market work? So what are stocks? What are bonds? So all that stuff, they don't really teach you. And one of the things also I would like to share is, like, and we talked about this earlier, until this year, Beverly Hills would not have never registered to me. Like, I know Beverly Hills exists, but as kind of like being here and playing with the big guys, with the giants. And so if we're born, exposed, live, grow up in a certain reality, that's all the reality that we know. Right? So while if you're born rich, you're exposed to rich people, you know the different tools that they do, the things that they do to stay rich and get even richer. Agent, one of the things that I can also offer, we have internal consultants, that help with your estate planning. If you have big assets, what are trusts? Why should you put money in trusts? So you're still liable for that when you pass away. Your assets will be taxed, so your family will have to pay whatever tax they have to pay. Versus having a strategy where the wealth that you've worked so hard to build, they will go to your loved ones and create multi-generational wealth. How do you make sure that your grandkids will benefit from what you've inherited or what you've built, right? Creating a trust, putting your assets in trust, and making sure that, whatever happens, your kids will have funds as they grow up. They'll get something by the time they reach a certain age, or it depends on how you structure it. But you're not paying taxes, because estate taxes, gift taxes, all that could be a lot. So it's either you give that to Uncle Sam or you give that to your loved ones, right? And so all these things are, things that probably a lot of people are not aware of them. And so we have to figure out what's the best way to make sure the roof preserve the wealth. And our children, your children's children will continue to benefit from that. Instead, we want to make sure we're leveraging all these things for the people that we care about.
And how can somebody reach out to you if they would like to inquire more about?
My phone number is 323-610-4888.
Awesome.
Call or text me.
Perfect. Call or text.
The what?
And why do you love offering protection for family?
Why do I love?
Yeah, like what's your personal why?
My personal why is I like the satisfaction of being able to help people, right? Because I would love to have that, other people help me as well. So I know it is something of value that I can offer, and I'm not selling them any of these things. I'm providing education. Someone asked me, how much you charge? I'm like, no, I don't charge for a fee. That's not how we get paid. And being able to help someone prepare, have peace of mind, and have a great strategy in place to make sure the amount that they make, whether it's small or big, that they're utilizing all the best strategies to make sure that their money will work for them and not going to pay taxes or other fees. And also to protect those assets, protect them from predators, protect them from, claims, from taxes, and also make sure that, your assets go to where you want it to go, and not have the government decide what to do with it, right? So having those plans in place and revisiting and updating those plans. So there's a whole lot of products, a whole lot of different needs, and we just take it one step at a time. That would be my advice, step by step. And in the world of performance, just take, and in my film is really where I learned it, right? I observe these ultramarathon runners. They have this saying, put one foot in front of the other, until you reach the finish line. So step by step, and I'll work with clients along the way, and we have resources that we can tap into to answer their questions and plan for the future. Plan for the short term, medium term, long term. And until we get to our destination.
Awesome.